It is the difficult situations in life that bring about the greatest change. We have a choice in every situation to become bitter or better. There is only one letter difference, but that one letter can make us or break us. God does not cause evil circumstances in our lives, but He will allow them. Sometimes because of other sin, our lives are affected in negative ways. When I was a child, my step-grandfather sexually abused me. This led to a life of sin, shame, guilt, and fear, just to name a few. A lot of the times I made decisions out of my woundedness. The abuse definitely played a huge role in my life and made me make decisions based on feelings, etc. When I was 16, I became pregnant with my first son. I was a teenager having a baby, so not the best situation. I married his father, and to say the least, we struggled. And not surprisingly, the marriage ended in divorce. Then I married another man who I had attended high school with, and we had a son together. Everything was going well, and we started a business, but there was a lot of pressure associated with that, and it made things from our past start to surface from out of both of us. There were wounds from our childhood that we had never dealt with, and our marriage started to fall apart. Two good people, but so wounded, and we didn't know how to handle life's pressures. There was a miscarriage and just pressures of life. Everything got to us, and once again, I found myself divorced. I was so broken, but I stayed single for many years, and then sometimes even looking for love in the wrong places. I married again, believing this time it was for good. Well, not. The first year was good, but it slowly turned into a domestic violence situation. I'd never experienced this before. Who would have ever thought? I thought we hid it well. The abuse started out as verbal, emotional abuse, but that led into the physical abuse. I was threatened many times, and I kept thinking it would change, though. The abuse also included financial as well as spiritual abuse. I had an amazing woman of God who counseled me, but finally had to use tough love, and she said, "Deanne, I love you, but if you continue to stay with him, I cannot help you." I had friends tell me they were afraid he would really hurt me or worse. If you are in an abusive relationship, reach out and get help. First, go to Jesus, and He will meet you right where you are at. Then pray and ask God who you should seek wise counsel from. We need the body of Christ. Remember, the enemy wants you to stay isolated. And I realize that I'm talking about my life's testimony in just a few words, but I'm writing about these events that God used to bring me to my knees so that I could have an intimate personal relationship with Him. I could write a book about my testimony alone. Couldn't we all? I am very thankful because He kept me through it all. I pray for my ex-husbands to have an intimate relationship with Jesus. There were so many good moments that outweigh the bad. First of all, I wouldn't even be alive if it weren't for the Lord. I have 2 amazing sons, and they have my heart. My sisters are my rock and so in love with Jesus, and today many of my family members are believers. My mother and my father love Jesus, and so do my stepmother and my stepfather. I have said the word thankful many times, and sometimes I get overwhelmed emotionally because of how thankful I am. Today, I'm married to an amazing man of God, James Harmon, and we've been married for 5 years. But an event happened that forever changed our world. On November 12, 2022, which was 1 year and 8 months ago, it was on a Saturday and was in week 45 of 2022. James suffered a stroke. I was in West Virginia visiting family, and I kept calling, and there was no answer. So I called her spiritual mama, Mama Addie, and she came over, and she found James on the floor. There were so many things that could have gone way wrong. He's a miracle to be alive. Actually, there was one that we could have had a house fire. There was a pan on the stove cooking noodles, and when they pulled it off, it was burnt to a crisp, except for a couple inch round hole in the center of the pan. In our journey so far, there have been many miracles for which we are very thankful. And right after the stroke happened, I asked the Lord what He wanted me to know, and He said, I've got this, I've got you, and I keep my promises. I asked Him, is there anything else? And He repeated Himself, and He said, I've got this, I've got you, and I keep my promises. I said, okay then, that's all I need to know. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. So no matter what you're going through, I will remind you what He told me. I've got this, I've got you, and I keep my promises.